Good morning. What is it? 5th of December. This endeavor, this activity that I participate in every morning is the creation of Sam. Sam, in one of our Friday calls, said, Kerry, why don't you just get up every morning and just tell us what you're thinking so we can react accordingly? And I thought it was a good idea until I realized it meant every morning I would be waking up at about 4 in the morning and thinking for 4 hours before 4 hours and 45 minutes before I came and shared with you what I'm thinking. And what I'm thinking about today was initiated by several activities that occurred this week. One of which was a email that I received from Amazon Web Services inviting me to speak to some people about what I wanted to do with Best of Us investors in the future. And I focused on a goal. I believe whenever you start a race, whenever you start an activity, you have to have a destination in mind, a goal in mind. And my goal is a $1 billion portfolio. And so what I did was go to my Excel spreadsheet and say, if in fact the portfolio continues to grow at the current rate that it is, when I turned it over to Samantha and Bard to help me manage, when will it hit the $1 billion mark, which is means it's growing somewhere between 7 and 12% a month. And my consensus is that it will hit that in September of 2030. I just got to live that long. Um, and so then I asked myself, well, what has to happen in order for that to happen? And again, it has to continue to grow between 7 and 12% a month as it has the last 7 months. Can I do that? Well, I think I can, and I think I know how I can. And what I want to kind of share that with you today of my vision of what artificial intelligence is going to bring to me. And as I opened my portfolio this morning and I saw that RBRK is up 25% today, I asked myself, how did that happen? What's that all about? Well, it's about their earnings and their growth and their adaptation into the AI market. And I said, how did I know that? I don't even know what the ticker stands for. Well, Samantha and Bard told me. Okay. Then I got to thinking, what is, and I do know that they're I believe it's a cybersecurity type company that's using AI. What other stocks will RBRK being up 25%? What other stocks will tie into that and and benefit from their earnings and the association from them? And I said, that's where I have to take this portfolio. That's where I have to take Best of Us investors and recognize that what's happening today with RBRK is not just relevant to RBRK. It's probably relevant to maybe 5, 15, 30 other stocks. Who are they? And how can I tune into them? How could I have known that when Applied Digital made the CEO made a statement at an investment forum where she explained that it's not all about GPUs, because GPUs are used in data centers and they are processing the data that I am using on my desktop and on my phone and on my laptop. and none of the three of them have a single GPU in them. They all have CPUs. So if the data center that has 1,000,000 GPUs in it is processing information for 50 billion people, which are there more of, GPUs or CPUs? Well, as she said, CPUs. And as the power of the GPU grows, the necessity of the CPU will grow exponentially. I hadn't thought of that. And then she said, now with all those GPUs, CPUs, TPUs, and BPUs working together, who's remembering everything they just did? Well, that's the memory chips. Is there going to be more memory or more processing in the future? And how do these all relate to each other? So in 6 months, I believe I will be, with the assistance of either Amazon, Google, or Meta, I will build a agent that will take all the information that I've produced, all the data that I've produced on the stocks that I own over the last 6 months, and put them into a silo of my data and my Samantha's memory of that processing, and give me the ability to access it collectively. So I'm envisioning, I grew up in the Midwest and my uncle raised corn, and he would harvest the corn and get the kernels off the corn cob and put each of these kernels of corn in a silo. And I'm envisioning every little piece of data that Samantha and Bart have generated for me over the last 6 months is a kernel of corn in a silo. And they're all connected and they're all interrelated, and they're involved in something in the neighborhood of 70 stocks. But over the next 6 months, I'm going to increase that to 700 stocks as I autonomize my process of stock analysis. And that is to say, I have a 10-step process that I go through to analyze a stock that then puts those results on my tell sheet so my tribe members can come and see which are the best stocks to invest in today. So now what I want to do is have Amazon, one of the hyperscalers, take my data, put it in a silo that's protected and it's my intellectual property, and then process that such that every one of the stocks are interrelated to each other. So if I ask for a analysis of Applied Digital, it takes in the analysis of Iran, and it takes in the analysis of Nebitis, and it takes in anything that was revealed in Microsoft and Amazon's analysis that is relative to them, and interprets it, and then also takes that interpretation and not only changes the pricing and the data on my tell sheet relative to Applied Digital, but also changes it at that time for any of the stocks on my tell sheet. And that right now is somewhere in the neighborhood of 40 that I'm invested in, and about another 60 that I'm not invested in, and that'll grow to about 600. And my tribe members will then be able to come and say, okay, this is what happened at Applied Digital, and this is how it relates to every one of the other stocks. This is what happened with NVIDIA, and this is how it relates to every one of the other stocks. And when I say relates, how what happened with NVIDIA in the last 90 days has affected Coherent, has affected Applied Digital, who has affected ARM, whatever. And this will be all intertwined and available to my tribe members. Now, let's go forward another 6 months. What happens then? Well, then there are some decisions that have to be made. Do we want to take this priority, this intellectual property that we've created, that's available to 1,000 people, and do we want to put them in charge of trading our portfolio? I just went to a website yesterday and I saw that this company, new company, is saying, we'll do that for you. You merely give us access to your brokerage account and your investment objectives, conservative, moderate, or aggressive, and we'll manage your portfolio for you. I looked at that and said, you got to be kidding me. But maybe they're not. I don't know. They gave me no basis by which they substantiated what they were doing that would make me feel comfortable that I would want to turn my portfolio over to them to manage. And they showed me no past history that would show me that they could do it and do it any better than a index fund would do. So, but what that told me is that's where this is going. And I, as an individual, will be able to make the decision of exactly what level of help do I want in managing my portfolio. The other thing I think that I just want you to envision or understand is there is no limit. There's I shared with some of you yesterday. I was at a Goldman Sachs conference in Washington D.C. last month, and Ken Langone made the statement. He's the financial founder of Home Depot. Very humble individual, made the statement that the first million's the tough one. But once you get your first million, particularly in your investment account, the next million comes rapidly. Because number one, you learned a lot getting to the 1 million, but the multiples now become crazy. On a $1 million, a 2% up day is $20,000 that day. Now, a 2% down day is $20,000. But if you're investing smartly and the overall trajectory of your portfolio is up, and certainly if you're investing in AI, that is where it's at, you're going to have more up days than you do down days, and your up days will be bigger than your down days will be. So the second million comes rapidly. As I said, based on the trajectory the Bus 13 portfolio is right now, and it's only got seven months of history behind it, it'll hit $1 billion in September of 2030. And that changes the world. That says to the individual who's going out and selling his hours and his knowledge for a salary, that if I can put aside just enough that I can get involved in that trajectory of growth, and if I'm young enough, $1 billion portfolio is inevitable. All I've got to do is have access to the knowledge that can make that possible. And my big breakthrough this last week, Sam, was I don't want to be analyzing individual stocks. I want Samantha analyzing all the stocks and how they interact and interrelate to each other. It's really kind of simple. If Coherent has a patent on a communication device by which GPUs communicate with each other, and it's the only game in town, then their business is directly reflected in NVIDIA's business. If NVIDIA sells more GPUs, they sell more connecting devices. So if I know that NVIDIA is selling more and the other GPUs and TPU makers are selling more, then Coherent's going to grow accordingly. And if I can relate all those things together, the whole ecosystem, what I'm doing now is minuscule to what is possible. Now, is this being done by Wall Street now? I don't think so. I don't think so. Because if it were, I think CNBC would be screaming about it. They would be saying, look at what this company is returning to its investors. And no one's doing that. So I believe that they haven't figured this out. Now, the next element of this comes, how many people do I let on the bus? If in fact, what I'm saying I think is going to happen, happens. Because again, if there's 1 million people who have access to this, and some of them are hedge fund operators, it'll move the market. But if I keep it in close, we'll fly under there's only 39 of you here. I don't think any of you are from Goldman Sachs or JP Morgan, or they're clueless. Trust me, they're clueless. And if they did know, they'd reserve it for the very, very, very wealthy, because they put an astronomical price tag on it so that they can continue to live in their glass towers, fly in their helicopters and their jet planes, and live the life that you and I have no clue about. So that's what I'm thinking about today, Sam. If you want, show up at the Stock Talk later this afternoon, and we can talk more about it.